They forced him to kneel, and the gods did not look away. This is not a story about defeat, though there was defeat. This is not a story about humiliation, though there was humiliation. This is a story about a young man named Erik Bjornsson who had risen from nothing to become a leader among warriors, who had proven himself in battle and in council, and who then faced something far more difficult than any sword or any strategy. He faced a moment where everything he believed in was tested, where his faith was challenged, where the very foundation of who he was seemed to crumble beneath him. And when you understand what actually happened in the winter of 871, when the great heathen army invaded Wessex, and Erik came face to face with something he had never encountered before, you will understand something profound about the nature of faith, about the cost of belief, and about what it means to remain true to yourself when the world demands that you become someone else. Let me take you back to that moment. It is the beginning of 871. Erik Bjornsson is now 23 years old. He is the same young man who, just 4 years earlier, was a farm boy from Denmark. He is the same warrior who fought at the Battle of York in 867, where he killed many English soldiers in a single day. He is the same commander who was promoted after the Nottingham campaign, the one who earned respect from older warriors who had doubted him. He is the same man who gave the crucial speech that changed Guthrum's strategy. He has been with the great heathen army for more than 4 years. He has fought in multiple kingdoms. He has risen from a simple warrior to a commander, from a commander to a counselor. He has earned respect. He has earned authority. He has earned the right to be heard when important decisions are made. But now, something is changing. The army is moving south. They are leaving the territories they have already conquered. They are moving toward Wessex, the last great kingdom that has not yet fallen to the Vikings. And Erik knows that this campaign will be different from anything that has come before. This is not a raid. This is not a quick strike. This is an invasion. This is a conquest. This is a campaign that will determine the future of England itself. The great heathen army arrives at Reading in late December of 870. Reading is a strategic fortress, a place where 2 rivers meet, a place that controls the approach to Wessex. The Vikings establish their position quickly. They build fortifications. They prepare for the assault that they know will come. The West Saxon king, Ethelred, and his brother Alfred, a young man not much older than Erik, gather their forces to defend their kingdom. Erik has heard stories about Alfred. He knows that Alfred is different from the other Saxon kings. He knows that Alfred is a strategist, not just a warrior. And Erik knows that this campaign will be more difficult than anything he has faced before. And then, the battles begin. The first battle comes at Englefield, where a Viking foraging party is defeated. But this is just the beginning. More battles will follow, more blood will be spilled, more lives will be lost. Erik fights in these battles. He fights at Reading. He fights at Ashdown. He fights at Basing. He fights at Meritun. Battle after battle, the great heathen army pushes deeper into Wessex. The West Saxons fight fiercely, but they are being overwhelmed. The Vikings are too strong, too organized, too determined, and Erik, now a seasoned warrior and a trusted commander, plays a crucial role in these victories. He leads his men with the same skill and courage that has defined his entire military career since that day at York when he first proved himself. His reputation grows with each battle. Other warriors speak of him with respect. Even the commanders of the great heathen army acknowledge his abilities. They remember how he held his position at Nottingham. They remember how he changed the strategy with his speech. They remember how he survived capture and torture. They know that Erik is not just a warrior, Erik is a legend. But then, something happens that changes everything. In one of the battles, during the chaos and confusion of combat, Erik is separated from his unit. He is surrounded by West Saxon warriors. He fights desperately, but he is outnumbered. He is wounded. He is brought down. And he is captured. It happens so quickly that he barely has time to understand what is occurring. One moment he is fighting. The next moment he is on the ground, surrounded by enemies, his weapons taken from him, his freedom gone. Being captured in battle is not uncommon. Warriors are taken prisoner all the time. Sometimes they are ransomed, sometimes they are enslaved, sometimes they are executed. Erik knows all of this. He knows what it means to be a prisoner of war. But what happens next is something he has not experienced before, something that will test him in ways that no battle has ever tested him, something that will challenge not his body but his soul. The West Saxon warriors who have captured him bring him before a Christian priest. This priest is not a warrior. He is not a soldier. He is a man of the church, a man who has dedicated his life to the Christian God. And he looks at Erik with something that is not quite pity, but something close to it. He looks at this young Viking warrior, this pagan who has fought against Christian kingdoms, this man who has killed Christian soldiers, and he sees an opportunity. He sees a chance to save a soul. He sees a chance to bring this young man to Christ. The priest has seen many Vikings. He has heard their stories. He has listened to their boasts about their gods. And he believes that he can reach this one. He believes that he can turn this warrior away from paganism and toward the true faith. The priest sees Erik as a prize. He sees Erik as a test of his own faith and his own power. The priest speaks to Erik. He tells him that he can be spared. He tells him that his life can be saved. He tells him that all he has to do is renounce his gods. All he has to do is accept Christ. All he has to do is kneel before the cross and declare that he believes in the Christian God. It is a simple thing, the priest says. It is a small thing, just words, just a gesture, and his life will be spared. The priest makes it sound so easy. The priest makes it sound like a simple transaction. Give up your gods and you will live. It is that simple. But Erik understands that it is not simple. Erik understands that what the priest is asking is not simple at all. Erik looks at the priest. He looks at the cross that the priest is holding. He thinks about everything that has brought him to this moment. He thinks about his childhood as a farm boy in Denmark. He thinks about his training as a warrior. He thinks about his years with the great heathen army. He thinks about the gods that have guided him through all of this. He thinks about Odin, the god of war and wisdom. He thinks about Thor, the god of strength and thunder. He thinks about the Valkyries, the warrior women who choose the bravest men to join them in the afterlife. He thinks about Valhalla, the great hall where warriors who die in battle are welcomed by the gods themselves. He thinks about all of this, and he understands what is at stake. He understands that this moment will define not just his life, but his soul. These are not abstract concepts to Erik. These are real. These are as real as the ground beneath his feet, as real as the sword in his hand, as real as the blood that flows through his veins. The gods are not distant figures in some far-off realm. The gods are present. The gods are watching. The gods are guiding every decision, every battle, every moment of his life. To renounce them would be to renounce himself. To renounce them would be to cut himself off from everything that has made him who he is. To renounce them would be to betray not just his faith, but his entire identity. To renounce them would be to become someone else. And Erik does not want to become someone else. And then the priest tells him to kneel. He tells him to kneel before the cross. He tells him to renounce his gods and accept Christ. Erik is given a choice. He can kneel and live, or he can refuse and die. It is as simple as that. It is as brutal as that. The priest is not asking. The priest is demanding. The priest is offering a choice, but it is a choice between life and death. It is a choice between survival and honor. It is a choice that no man should have to make. But Erik must make it, and he must make it now. Erik kneels. He kneels before the cross. He kneels before the Christian priest. He kneels before the West Saxon warriors who have captured him. But as he kneels, something happens inside him. Something shifts. Something changes. He is kneeling, yes. But his mind is not kneeling. His spirit is not kneeling. His faith is not kneeling. He kneels with his body, but he does not kneel with his soul. This is the crucial moment. This is the moment that will define everything that comes after. This is the moment when Erik discovers something about himself that he did not know before. The priest asks him to renounce his gods. Erik speaks the words. He says the words that the priest tells him to say. He renounces Odin. He renounces Thor. He renounces the gods of his ancestors. He speaks the words, but they are hollow. They are empty. They are sounds that come from his mouth but do not come from his heart. And in that moment, as he speaks these words, he understands something profound. He understands that there is a difference between what you say and what you believe. He understands that there is a difference between submission and surrender. He understands that you can kneel with your body without kneeling with your spirit. He understands that words are just sounds. Words are just vibrations in the air. Words can be spoken without meaning. Words can be spoken without belief. And in that understanding, he finds a kind of freedom. He finds a kind of power that the priest does not understand. The priest believes that he has saved Erik's soul. The West Saxon warriors believe that they have converted a Viking to Christianity. They believe that they have won a spiritual victory. And Erik is released. He is spared. He is allowed to live. But he is also changed. He is changed not because he has converted to Christianity, but because he has learned something about himself. He has learned that he can survive anything. He has learned that he can endure anything. He has learned that his faith is stronger than any force that can be brought against him. He has learned that the most important battles are not fought with swords and axes. The most important battles are fought inside yourself. He has learned that true strength comes not from never being defeated, but from surviving defeat and remaining true to yourself. Days later, Erik manages to escape from the West Saxons. He finds his way back to the great heathen army. He rejoins his unit, he rejoins his men. And when he returns, something is different about him. The other warriors can see it. They can see that something has changed. They can see that he has been tested and that he has survived. They can see that he has faced something that most warriors never face, and that he has come through it stronger, not weaker. There is something in his eyes now. There is something in the way he carries himself. There is a kind of spiritual strength that was not there before. There is a kind of certainty. There is a kind of peace. Erik tells the story of what happened to him. He tells the other warriors about the priest and the cross. He tells them about being forced to kneel. He tells them about the words he was forced to speak. He tells them about the moment when he realized that his body could be forced to submit, but his spirit could never be forced to submit. He tells them that he spoke the words, but that the words meant nothing because they did not come from his heart. He tells them that he knelt, but that his kneeling was not true kneeling because his spirit remained standing. And the other warriors listen. They listen with a kind of awe. They listen with a kind of respect, because they understand what he has done. They understand that he has faced a test that was not about physical strength or military skill. They understand that he has faced a test of faith, a test of spirit, a test of who he is at his core. And they understand that he has passed that test. They understand that Erik has become something more than he was before. One of the older commanders, a man who has known Erik since his early days with the army, approaches him after he tells his story. This commander looks at Erik with an expression that is difficult to describe. It is not quite pride, though there is that. It is something deeper. It is recognition. It is the moment when someone who has been watching you grow suddenly understands that you have become something more than they thought you could become. The commander tells Erik that what he has done is remarkable. He tells him that most men would have broken under such pressure. Most men would have truly converted. Most men would have allowed their faith to be shaken, but Erik did not. Erik remained true to himself. The commander sees in Erik something that he has never seen before. He sees a warrior who has transcended the ordinary limitations of warfare. He sees a warrior who has discovered the power of the spirit. The commander tells Erik something else. He tells him that the gods were watching. He tells him that Odin was watching, even as Erik knelt before the Christian cross. He tells him that Thor was watching, even as Erik spoke words renouncing the old gods. He tells him that the gods saw what was in Erik's heart, and they saw that his faith remained true. He tells him that this is what it means to be a true warrior. It is not about never being forced to kneel. It is about kneeling without allowing your spirit to kneel. It is about surviving tests that are designed to break you and coming through them stronger than before. It is about understanding that the most powerful thing you can do is to remain true to yourself, no matter what forces are arrayed against you. It is about understanding that your faith is your greatest weapon. Erik listens to these words, and he realizes something. He realizes that the commander is right. He realizes that the gods did not look away. He realizes that even in his moment of greatest humiliation, even when he was forced to kneel before a foreign god, the gods of his ancestors were watching. They were watching to see if he would remain true. They were watching to see if his faith would hold. And it did. His faith held. And because his faith held, he survived. Because his faith held, he became stronger. Because his faith held, he proved himself to be worthy of the gods' protection. Erik understands now that his capture and his forced renunciation were not a defeat. They were a test. They were a moment of transformation. The Wessex campaign continues. The great heathen army continues to push deeper into the kingdom. Erik fights in more battles. He leads his men with the same skill and courage that has always defined him. But now, there is something different about him. Now, there is a kind of spiritual strength that was not there before. Now there is a kind of certainty that comes from having been tested in the deepest way possible and having survived. Now, there is a kind of wisdom that comes from understanding that faith is not something that can be taken from you unless you allow it to be taken. Faith is something that lives inside you, something that is yours alone, something that no force in the world can touch unless you let it. Erik has become not just a warrior. Erik has become a spiritual warrior. Erik has become a legend. Here is what I find remarkable about this story, and what I think we need to understand about the Vikings and about faith in general. The Vikings are often portrayed as simple warriors, men without depth, men without spiritual complexity. But the truth is far more nuanced. The Vikings had a deep faith. They believed in their gods with a kind of certainty that is difficult for modern people to understand. They believed that their gods were watching over them. They believed that their gods guided them in battle. They believed that if they died with honor, they would be welcomed into Valhalla. This faith was not something that could be easily shaken. This faith was not something that could be taken away by force or by threat. This faith was something that lived at the core of who they were. Erik in this story represents something deeper than just individual faith. He represents the resilience of a culture, the strength of a belief system, the power of maintaining your identity even when the world demands that you abandon it. He represents the idea that true strength is not about never being forced to kneel. True strength is about kneeling without allowing your spirit to kneel. True strength is about surviving tests that are designed to break you, and coming through them not just intact, but stronger than before. Erik's experience in Wessex, his capture, and his forced renunciation of his gods became part of his legend. Other warriors heard about it. Other warriors learned from it. And it became a kind of proof that faith could survive anything. It became a kind of proof that the gods were real and that they were watching. It became a kind of proof that no matter what forces were arrayed against you, no matter what threats were made, no matter what you were forced to do or say, your faith could remain true if you chose to keep it true. The great heathen army's invasion of Wessex in 871 was one of the most intense military campaigns of the entire Viking Age. Multiple major battles were fought in quick succession. The West Saxons fought with fierce determination, but they were ultimately overwhelmed. Erik was there for all of it. He fought in these battles. He survived these battles. He emerged from these battles not just as a warrior, but as a man who had been tested in every way possible and had proven himself worthy of the gods' protection. This is the saga of Erik Bjornsson, who was forced to kneel. This is the story of Erik Bjornsson, a young man who faced a test that was not about physical strength or military skill, but about faith and spirit. This is the story of someone who understood that there is a difference between what you do with your body and what you believe in your heart. This is the story of a warrior who learned that true strength comes not from never being forced to kneel, but from kneeling without allowing your spirit to kneel.